Okay, so where we are today, I picked up some of this aluminum VHT flame-proof paint, and as long as I had it out, I wanted to try something new, so I repainted the heat shield that separates the exhaust manifold from the intake. I didn't bother with the bottom because you can't really see that very much. It wasn't that bad. This side was rusty and had a lot of buildup around here, and so I cleaned it up real well and then painted it. EGR tube to go on. I've gone through the thermostat housing. Well, there's not anything to go through on that. Intake manifold ready to go. I cleaned up the mating surfaces, got all the old remnants of the gasket off. This is the exhaust manifold. Got the new studs all in. Well, that's the original stud. That one didn't snap. These two broke. These have been put in, torqued. Put some anti-seize in there. I don't know if you're supposed to do that on them or not. I don't care. I'd rather it come loose. I'll deal with it. I don't think that one will ever come loose. So, you know, whatever. I always have one holding on. Miscellaneous nuts and bolts, various exhaust studs and whatnot. Exhaust hanger. What I'm going to do on the exhaust hanger is, rather than using a stud, I'm thinking about using a bolt and washer, the engine holder I should say. That goes in the very last hole on the exhaust manifold, which would be I guess this one right here. Bolts through there. Other heat shield, that's for the AC. So these are all the parts that have to go back on. First thing that'll go on, of course, will be the exhaust manifold, then the intake manifold, then all the bolts, you know, hold it all together. I'll probably take it for a test drive, recheck the torque before I put on the shield, because once that shield goes on, it's not easy to get at the bolts that go right in here and basically capture both the intake and the exhaust. Here's the engine bay assembly. I've got the new exhaust gasket down there to clean up the mating surfaces real well. I've got a new thermostat gasket somewhere around here. Don't lose a day. For the thermostat. These bolts I left out because they're the ones that I'm planning on using, these 10.9 metric bolts to hold on the manifold. Because my theory on this is, for some reason, these two bolts, or these two studs, always seem to be broken on these cars. A lot of people have issues with those two. They're always broken. The theory I'm guessing is it's got something to do with expansion of the cast iron, stress fracturing those nuts. So the plan is, rather than using studs and whatnot, use the bolts, and then, you know, every year, back them off, tighten them up again, put the new ones in, just see what happens. It'd be sort of like a maintenance item, because you don't want those to break. It's a major league pain in the rear. Nothing else broke. Everything else came out real easy. All these are real good, you know, no problem. So, hopefully my new exhaust, the exhaust manifold, new exhaust manifold's coming, I hope. This is a bit of a problem finding one of these. I think I have a source for one. I have an N42 cylinder head, which means it uses these square outlets. See, square. The newer ones have a kind of a D-shaped one. The outside edge is D-shaped, and apparently they're NLA, or at least hard to get. So I think I found one that's right. We'll see. Worst case scenario, I really don't want to do it. I suppose I could reuse this one. This one is the only thing that broke right here. It's not critical. I mean, it'll be clamped on tight enough to hold it. I don't think it'd be a big deal, but I just hate doing stuff like that. So hopefully I don't have to reuse that. So anyway, hopefully we'll get all back together. It's good. Kind of stinks not having my ride. I'm not very happy about that, but it's good to get it all done. And now, and if you remember, the whole point of this was, my very first operation was to work on the transmission, was to disconnect that downpipe. And that's when one of the studs broke, and that started this whole mess. But I also knew that bolt was broken, which is not good because that's the engine hoist. I didn't know that bolt was broken until I took it apart, and I took it down. I found it laying down there because you can't really see. It's kind of hidden underneath the the thermostat. I didn't even notice it. So hopefully we'll be able to get this thing all back together. I'm really excited about it. And then we'll move on. Next project will probably be the struts, for which I have this. This actually says 54 millimeter. That was about as good a fit as I could get, even though it's 55 millimeters across the flat. That's a 8-point head on that strut cartridge gland nut, but obviously this is not an 8-point, but it still fit really well. So I bought this over at, I don't know, I think I got it at Northern Tool. Then I used a die grinder and grind these two flats. Then I could put a really big adjustable wrench on, you know, to clamp onto here and get some real torque on it without by a monster. You know, the option was buy a huge adjustable wrench, and even then you're only capturing two sides. With this thing, you got all sides captured, and you can use a more reasonable size adjustable wrench. So this will be used to hopefully remove that gland nut packing. But before I get into that, I'm going to get the engine running again and take it around, ride some more. Then we'll pull the struts and do the strut cartridges, because I have an oil leak in one, so I figured, well, that's time to be looked at. And after strut cartridges are done, maybe we'll finally get that transmission. Anyway, next time you see it, it should be all back together.